Hi everyone! Welcome back to Live with the Paint People. I'm James. I'm here every live, and I'm back again on a Friday night with all of you. Thank you so much for joining. We're getting ready for the weekend. It's gonna be a lot of fun. We're talking about Cabernet Sauvignon in the chat, even though I'm not a huge Cab Sav guy myself. Agua, that's good for me. How's everyone doing? Good to see you guys. And gals, all of you, all encompassing. We got Max in the chat. We got Coastal Diva. We got Leslie. Great to see you all. And I'm excited to talk about today's topic, which of course is a color palette. It's color palette day. And what I wanted to do was briefly talk about how I put this color palette together, what I was thinking in my crazy brain when I concocted it, because I think it's pretty nice. It's very much my aesthetic, I feel, especially nowadays with the abundance of organic colors, earthy colors that are becoming quite prominent. So to be honest, a little spoiler alert, this isn't going to be a palette that is insanely avant-garde and out there, but I think there's some really nice colors that I wanted to introduce to you all. So yeah. So in the chat, like I said, Coastal Diva, ready for those organic colors. Loving it. A nice good evening, James from Max. Thank you so much for chiming in. And then we got Leslie feeling out of the loop because she likes cooler colors. But the nice part about this color palette is it is loosely based off of a design style that uses quite a bit of cooler colors. And that, of course, is transitional design style. So this is where I'd like to begin because I feel transitional design is a design style that kind of gets forgotten about for a lot of people. It's always nice to talk about something trendy like wabi-sabi or boho maximalism or anything like that. But transitional design is one of those tried and true design styles that, of course, was derived from traditional interior design style. And this is going to be, the most recognizable design style I feel in the Western world. You got your dining room with your nice chairs. You got your antique hunting cabinet right over there. It's very familiar, cozy. You got the coffee table. You got the chairs surrounding it, facing the fireplace, things like that. Transitional design is essentially a modernized take on that, both in terms of how clean it looks, how decluttered it usually is, but also the colors that are associated with it. So you can kind of get an idea here. There's some warmer neutrals, some organic textures we can see already. And then there's all these little cool pops here and there. So little bluey gray colors or just straight up kind of cement gray as well. But you can still have the warmer colors or the cooler colors. I feel like with transitional design, you do see a lot more texture than traditional typically. And that's because in transitional, you will rely on muted colors more, neutrals, subtle shades and tones and tints. And with that, because you don't want it to seem boring with all these kind of toned down colors, you then compensate with things like texture and depth and richness and things like that. I even did a quick little Google search here, transitional color palettes, and you can see, other than this crazy technological transition one, which is more like a digital palette, a lot of the interior painting specific palettes that are transitional, it's very much grayish and these bluey colors, a little bit of sage here and there, but that is the gist of it, right? Which is great, which is still beautiful. I enjoy these colors altogether. However, I think nowadays we crave nature. We crave organic textures and colors. And you can see right here, I like my plants. This is a fake plant, by the way. It's totally fake, but it looks really good. So that's what matters. So that's what I wanted to do today. It is kind of an idea I had. You could maybe call it transitional 2.0, but I think it's more along the lines of organic transitional. And the gist of it all is to replace some of those grays with some warmer neutrals and perhaps the blue with a little bit of green. So we're going to get to it. This is, sorry, I just saw Leslie appreciating my howevers. Thank you for that. Oh, and good evening to Yvette as well. Great to see you. Okay. And Nancy, I see ya. Okay. Let's talk about it. So I have a palette that I put together. It is called Whispering Wood, a palette pyramid featuring 6 Sherwin Williams colors. And my thinking behind this, like I said, was taking the crux of what Transitional is and just making it a bit more warm and earthy, a little bit. I try to also maintain that level of not safeness, but the thing is, you don't want to go too overboard with it. Otherwise, it does go fully maximalist. So I'm going to try and talk through these colors here. I'll give you a little peek in a second. Let me just pull it up. Whispering Wood. 3, 2, 1. There it is. Okay. So let's break this down. So palette pyramid, starting with the main color, the default color. If you wanted to paint your hallway with something, go with the main color 9 times out of 10, which of course is lime wash. So lime wash was, I guess, based off of the decorative finish that we all know and love. And if you don't know it, you should look it up because it's pretty cool. The amount of stuff and finishes you can pull off with lime wash. This is a color that is part of the designer color collection by Sherwin Williams. In fact, all these colors are, in fact, which is kind of fun. So this is a color I love. It has a 67 LRV. And if you know me, like anything in the 60s as a main color is pretty solid. Gives you a lot of versatility on the light end and the dark end. Not going to feel too washed out in many situations unless you have huge windows and tons of beautiful natural light. You lucky devil, you. 67, there's enough oomph there to have some body. And you can even compare it to this white section on the Sherwin Williams website in the bottom left. That's kind of what your white baseboards might look like. So there is pretty noticeable contrast between those two colors. Although I'm sure you probably wouldn't go with a bright, bright, bright white because you probably watch my videos a lot and you know how I feel about the brightest of whites. But I digress. Lime wash is great because it's very much neutral. It has a little bit of warmth, but not much. There is a gray aspect to it that I think is quite fresh. And based on the other colors in this color palette, I wanted something to give you kind of a more of a clean slate vibe as your main color. And then we can go a bit warmer, maybe a bit later on. Okay. First color done. Now we're moving to the support colors. So this is a trim color and another color, which could either be a wall option or another trim color. And normally I like to start with a light color for the trim, but on this one, I want to go with a dark trim. And for lime wash, I'm pairing it with a baseboard painted with limestone. Yes, so this is going to be a dark trim option. And as you can see, quite a difference in contrast, right? But limestone, it has a lot of those same characteristics that lime wash has. It's not just a name similarity. It is a little warmer leaning because of the brown aspect to it, but it is shaded quite heavily. So these two will give you a very striking high contrast look on your trim. If you weren't ready for that, I get it, but you can go with white sand as another option. So this is going to be my white trim color pairing for lime wash. So these two is a little more of a traditional or transitional approach where you have lime wash on your walls, white sand on your trim. And then if you still wanted to incorporate limestone, you can do it in the form of just an accent color. So either accent wall, built-in, anything like that, or even maybe a door. If you want, let's say, white sand on your baseboards in your door and your window frames, and then you have limestone on the doors for a nice earthy, slightly taupey vibe. I mean, we talked about taupe pretty recently, right? So those are going to be the core three, essentially, that starts this whole palette off. And other than the really dark trim option, pretty straightforward so far, right? It is just essentially grayish colors, a white, and then a deep, sort of slightly moody, chocolatey, taupey color. And then we move to the first finishing color. So for these next two finishing colors, I would almost say pick one or the other. There is a little bit of overlap, but it depends on what kind of look you're going for. So the first one, another warm neutral, High Sierra. So similar to Lime Wash now, but going quite a bit deeper. It's now a mid-tone at 53 LRV, and there is a more noticeable coloration to it, right? So Lime Wash does feel a bit more muted and light and airy. High Sierra now deepens that a bit more. So essentially, if you wanted just a darker version of Lime Wash to a certain degree, High Sierra will give you that. And this is perfect for areas where you want that depth, where maybe it is really bright. And even Lime Wash does feel a bit too light in those circumstances. High Sierra is a great option there. Even in darker rooms too, if you want to lean into that a little bit and not try and counteract it by going brighter, High Sierra will do that too. So it just gives you a little more of a cocooning effect, but still very much in that same family of colors. So yeah, so far so good. Pretty neutral, pretty grayish. The next color we have brings more warmth, and now we're getting to the more organic side of things. We don't really have any true grays here. They're all kind of grayish, dark, deep, charcoaly taupe kind of colors. Then this one's kind of a mid-tone grayish. And then we have Woodbridge, which is going to be the second finishing color. And now we have a 28 LRV option. So light reflectance value is in that bottom third of colors, very much leaning into that brown now. And I almost sort of see this as like a regular old tree bark on, I don't know, an eastern redbud or a honey locust or something. And then Lime Wash is more of like birch bark. So like, I was definitely inspired by that. I'm not even kidding. So yeah, this one, the warmth will be that much more present. And you can even see here, I like using these pictures as reference points. This bench, this off-white bench, you can really see the contrast, but also the coloration. Like that wall, it's there. Like the color, the body of it is quite prominent, yet still technically part of the neutral family of colors. So it's not going to be over the top for someone who is more into transitional color and design, essentially, where maybe you aren't willing to go super adventurous with your colors. So I still wanted to keep it in that neutral family of colors. That being said, my final finishing color, this is the one that I enjoy the most. It's the most fun color, and I hope it's something that you can find a use for, because I do really like it. It is called Juniper. Wow. I love this color. So Juniper, on the subject of nature and earthiness and organic, this is essentially, of course, is a green, but it almost feels like a jade type of color, or malachite. There is a little bit of blue. So this is kind of hearkening back a little bit towards transitional design style, where there was a lot more of those kind of powdery blues. This is a green, but the blue is in the undertones to sort of give you that little cool edge to help finish off the rest of the palette, which is a little more neutral and admittedly warmer leaning. So in the end, you have a lot of neutrals to work with depending on how light or dark you want to go and sort of dial things in. A dark trim option if you want to go even more contrasty and moody in some areas. This could also be a wall color, technically, if you wanted to just go for maybe a super dark entertainment room, home theater type of vibe, or like a basement where you have like a projector set up. And then, of course, you have the other neutrals that are probably going to be the most prominent colors on your walls, just to give you a pretty streamlined, clean effect. And then Juniper is just that accent that really sets things off. I could see this mainly as an accent color, not necessarily full room color. I think it is quite saturated. So especially if you are trying to stick with more mellowed out colors, but totally could put this in a bedroom. Like if you love this color, I love dark saturated blue, greeny leaning colors in bedrooms. It's what I have, so I'm a bit biased towards it. But even things like, bathroom vanity could be a really fun pop of color. potentially accent wall and somewhere like an office where you want like a bit of a fun pop of color to maybe stimulate your creativity. And then of course, it's up to you, right? If this is color is a bit too saturated for you, there's options that are more towards the sage greens, or just lighter greens in general. You can really input kind of any green really in this palette because everything else is so safe and neutral and they play well with one another, which I think is important. But man, oh man, Juniper is just so nice. So yeah, that's the palette altogether. This is what it looks like when they're all arranged. And this is one of our palette pyramids that we offer. We'll talk about it at the end, don't you worry. But we have main color, your two support colors. So that gives you an idea of how they would look like as potential baseboards. And then you have your finishing colors, which are going to be a little more on the darker side, a little more rich, and a little more brown leaning rather than kind of grayish. You got Juniper, I love it. But like I said, you don't need to use all 6 of these colors. In fact, some of you might only use 3 or 4. So you can kind of pick and choose, okay, well, maybe this one's a bit redundant. I'll just stick with these 4 plus Juniper on a chair. But you can see the influence of transitional design, I'm hoping, right? It's muted, it's soft. There's some little pops here and there just to give you a little bit of intrigue. But I think it's one that a lot of people could hopefully get some value from because it's really not pushing the envelope too much, but there's enough there to just have, built-in colors to create focal points here and there. So, yeah, what do you guys think? Do you enjoy it? Let me see the comments. I want to see if I'm getting butchered or not. Like a limestone cowboy. Is that the reference? Should we do like a Paint People live karaoke night one time? That'd be kind of fun. I don't even know if we could do that. Okay, looks like we have some Lime Wash fans. Really like the Lime Wash from Charlotte. You had me at limestone. Okay, great. So started off with a bang, apparently. Lime Wash and limestone. I mean, they're a great combination. And it's just fun to say. So when your guests come over, you can be like, oh, what's that wall color? Lime wash. Oh, it just looks like paint. Yeah, it's called lime wash. What about the trim? Limestone. It just sounds cool. I don't know. And I think that counts for something too. Because then it's, colors are fun to talk about. I do it every day. Leslie, very calm. Yeah, that's what I was going for. I like these colors because I like to be chilled out at my home when my daughter is running wild and pointing at everything, calling it a cat. I was going through a bit of a cat phase. We're not getting a cat, though. I'm not huge on the cat bandwagon. Not that there's anything wrong with them. Coastal Diva, Juniper is pretty, but I can't live with it on my walls too much. I could see that. I think it is a saturated color. It's quite saturated. There's a lot of it. So I think a good way to use it is in smaller pockets, right? Or rooms that are closed off. So if there's a door that can separate it, so it's not constantly in eye line, because that could be a bit visually taxing after a while. But man, if you can find a use for it, it's just so beautiful. Juniper looks exactly like my master bathroom walls. That's amazing. Must be a beautiful, beautiful bathroom. Pretty palette overall, calming. Loving Juniper. Frame artwork nice on Juniper. Great point. So there will be many situations and cases where you have a room where maybe not a lot of the walls will be shown all the time. Whether that's because you have big furniture in front of it, you have a lot of windows, or you have artwork that's being displayed, especially maybe black and white photography or something like that, or gallery walls with like lighter colors to contrast. And then you have this beautiful Juniper framing all of that, which is kind of fun. So that is an option. Or if you have, let's say, some paneling and maybe not the entire wall is painted Juniper, but maybe the top or bottom half, separated by a chair railing, for example. That's another thing too. You can afford to experiment with color a little bit more liberally if you don't have a ton of surface area that you actually need to paint with said color. So that's just a thought too. It may be daunting to think, oh man, this color everywhere, all over the walls. But if there's not that much actual wall space that's being painted, then maybe you can justify it a little bit more. Annette, love the Juniper. Love it. Yes. Yes. You know what? I'm going to give myself a round of applause. I think we got a good one here, guys. I feel it's not hard to please you guys, but I know everyone has their own personal tastes. And especially with our content, putting out all these videos and lives, putting out all these color palettes, I want to make sure that I'm like basically appealing to as many people as possible, where I give you colors that are usable, that you can actually see yourself putting in your home. But at the same time, it can get a bit samey, and I don't want to just give you 50 videos on classic gray and Revere pewter, right? So this, I think, is a nice little combination, if I will say so myself, right? We have some nice neutrals, a slight warm lean, especially in the finishing colors. And then you got a fun little pop of Juniper. So I hope I have satisfied that. I'd have to be so drunk to do karaoke, you wouldn't be impressed. We'll leave it there. Love the green for bedroom, but afraid of the blue undertones. Well, you know what, Clubber 23? Well, first of all, you can test the color out. But what I can also suggest, and this is what I said the other day, you can paint it, assuming you've tested it and you liked it. And if the blue undertones are a little bit much, you can change out the light bulb in your overhead ceiling. And what that might do is the warmer incandescent lighting could actually kill that blue undertone altogether. So that's a kind of a fun little hack that I like to try sometimes, is if I want to change up the feel of a room and I don't want to repaint, I might just change out the light bulb and see if that makes a difference. Because the light bulbs, they can vary wildly when it comes to color temperature, brightness, and intensity. So that is something to consider. Purposely love the blue and picked it for the blue undertone. But I can understand why that would maybe irk some people. But you can always just replace it with a warmer green too, with more of a yellow undertone. How would that look on a bedroom wall? And I believe Annette is referring to limestone. I think it would look great. I think, honestly, for the same reason that it would look great as a trim color for Lime Watch specifically, or even High Sierra. Woodbridge, it's maybe a little more of a stretch, just because I would see a red undertone might sometimes pop up with Woodbridge. And limestone, because it is so shaded, sometimes it can kind of get into like that bronzy territory, which might look fine, but there could be some slight clashing. But in terms of a bedroom accent wall, absolutely. I would love to see this in a bedroom. A great place is behind the headboard, typically speaking. So if you have a nice, clean rectangle wall panel right behind your headboard, that's usually a great candidate for an accent color that's dark. It'll help frame the bed really, really nicely visually, and it'll kind of become a focal point. So the energy will travel there. So there's a bit of a feng shui aspect. Not that I'm a feng shui expert, but you could also put this behind your TV if you have a TV in your bedroom. And that has more of a practical advantage of allowing the TV to sort of melt away into your dark wall. And I think it might be easier on the eyes too when you're watching. Hopefully not too late, because it's important to get your sleep. So yes, accent wall approved is what I'm trying to say. Ooh, Juniper on a high ceiling. I like how you think. Beautiful. In the right room, of course. Yeah. With nice crown molding, kind of framing it in, and then just nice little panel, recessed panel up there for sure. And I think what's nice about those kind of accent ceilings is that can just be the focal point, and then the walls themselves can still remain neutral, and then it just draws your eye up. It'll make your ceiling look taller. The same effect would happen if you used a limestone, for example, on the ceiling, but I feel like Juniper would just be like, whoa, like very, very avant-garde, but I love it. Love it. I always convince myself I have our wall and trim colors finally decided. Then I watch one of your lives and I think, well, maybe I'm not too sure. You know what? I would love to just say, stick with your guns. Commit to whatever you're thinking, Yvette. But I also like you watching the lives and joining in on the fun. So hopefully I won't put you off too long from painting. Because ultimately it's up to you, right? It's what you like, what makes you happy, what brings you joy. You're having to live there, right? So if I can inspire you and kind of upgrade your ideas in a way, I mean, that's cool. But yeah, dive in. Test your colors out though, please. Me too, says Leslie. Oh no, what have I done? I need to start just making content about, I don't know, gardening. Just stop talking about color for a while. Not that I'm an amazing gardener. I've just been getting into it recently. It's been a lot of fun, actually. Were you able to see my question? Lime wash coordinates with Balboa mist. Yeah, I think so. I mean, let me pull them up for you. So we got lime wash, and then we got Balboa. So they are both fairly similar. I'm assuming you mean Balboa mist from Benjamin Moore, right? So yeah, I'll just get started on this and see. So Balboa mist. Rocky Balboa mist, Max. Oh man. You know what? So the thing is with Balboa mist, they're very similar colors. And that could present some issues, especially if they're next to one another. So I would almost say, maybe pick one or the other. Like LRV wise, there's like a 1.5 difference. They function in the exact same way. They're both kind of that grayish color, that combines a little bit of beige with some gray, essentially, right? But I always like to keep my neutrals at like arm's length distance-wise, if you know what I mean. Because when they are so similar, you might be lucky and they'll just blend in like perfectly. But what tends to happen is they can clash a little bit. It's usually not an issue if they're separate. So even if it's one room across from another, you're usually okay. So it looks like, okay, you have Balboa in the kitchen already and you need a dining room color, but you like light colors. So it should be fine. Like I would obviously test the color first. In terms of coordination, you have two grays, so I'm sure it'll be fine. But there might be the slightest differences, especially considering they're two different companies. So, no, don't pick something else, Coastal Diva. I would maybe try it. Like at least it's worth a try. Test it out. Even just get a swatch of lime wash if you can, and just put it right on Balboa mist and just see how the two kind of play with one another. Because it's not like you're painting your cabinets with lime wash and then the kitchen is Balboa and they're right next to each other and it's just like they're in constant eyesight of one another. There's enough similarities where it should be okay. But you might be okay with Balboa mist for the dining room too. Who knows, right? You can just maybe not complicate things too much and just stick with what you know. Okay, I gotta go to... So we got Rocky Balboa mist from Max. We got Adrian from Leslie. I have a good friend named Adrian, and I can't tell you the number of times I've like gotten vocal nodes saying Adrian to him. And yes, please, Coastal Diva, if you try it, please let us know, because Balboa Mist is probably one of my most used, I would say most used neutral colors. When I used to do a lot more painting from day to day. Maybe edged out by Classic Gray, to be honest, but Balboa has more depth, and I feel like it is more appealing to more people. And there's a reason why it is one of Benjamin Moore's best-selling colors. Like it's great. LRV is good. The versatility of it is awesome. So all that is great. But then we got limestone and lime wash. You know, just here to take the crown, perhaps. We'll see. But yeah. So that is the palette pyramid altogether, right? And just so you know, everyone, we do offer palette pyramids as a service. So these are done by moi. I put these color palettes together for our customers. It is a paid service. It helps fund the channel, of course. It keeps me employed, which is good. So essentially the way it works is you go on the website, paintpeople.com or shop.thepaintpeople.com. Apparently there's a bit of a Black Friday sale on right now. Crazy. And then all you do is go to color at the top left, click on palette pyramid, and here you go. Oh, look, I have four or 5-star reviews so far. That's fun. I didn't know that. And then, yeah, there's different pricing for different palettes. So a 3-color palette, 6-color palette, 12-color palette, which has 2 main colors. So you can kind of pick your poison or your panacea. Like, pick the main color that you like the most. And then within like 3 business days, we exchange some information. You send me photos, any inspo pictures you like, and then I churn out one of these palettes for you. So yeah, that's the gist of it. And I hope you like this live. So what we're going to do is, I think next week we'll do another Wednesday and Friday live. We'll see how things go. And I might start switching to just Fridays and maybe go a bit longer if that works for you guys. Or Wednesday. Actually, before we finish up, if you want to chime in, you got Wednesday and Friday. If you can pick one, which one would it be? And the idea is whatever live gets taken away, that'll just be an upload of a video. So there's going to be content for you no matter what. It just depends on whether it's going to be something pre-edited, like maybe a color palette review or a color code or color quickie. And then the other day will be the live. So, and then we can just talk more, hang out more, devote more time. We got a Friday from Coastal Diva. We got a Friday from Max. Leslie is a Friday. I like Fridays too. End of the week, done all my work. Maybe have the odd palette pyramid on Saturday. Not this week though. I'm good. Although I might do some blogging. We'll see. Who knows? Okay, I think Friday. So yeah, like I said, Wednesday. Actually, I can maybe tell you what next week's lives are going to be about. Ooh, so next week on Wednesday, we're going to talk about 10 exterior paint color trends. That'll be fun. And then Friday, I'll leave a surprise. Okay. So exterior talk on Wednesday. We'll talk about that. A few more questions I want to get to. Man, that's rough for me because my work schedule is per diem, so I catch the lives when I get lucky. Oh, man. Well, Yvette, hopefully you can make it. I mean, you can always catch it after, but it's not as fun. I get it. Maybe I'll start doing the impromptu, casual, vertical lives when I'm just out and about. That'd be kind of fun, too. We'll see. No promises. Max, what part of Canada are you from? How did you know I'm Canadian, brother? Hey. Southern Ontario. So I'm from Ontario, and I love it. Exterior, we need more interior. We'll talk about interior as well. Don't you worry. Don't you worry, Leslie. All right, everyone. Very fun live. Hope you enjoyed it. And I will see you all next week. Don't forget, next week is Thanksgiving for the U.S. Yes. Enjoy your turkey. Hamilton. Actually, kind of close to Hamilton. That's fun. All right, everyone. Enjoy your night. Enjoy your weekend. Love you all. Thank you so much for joining, as always. And we'll see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.